Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're at. I am Sonia Winkleman, Director of Net Zero Energy Housing at the Canadian Home Builders Association. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today. Before we begin, I'm just going to let you all know that we're going to be in listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, so please do feel free to add your questions in the questions section of the dashboard as we go through the presentations, and then I will relay those questions to the presenters at the end of the webinar, or at the end of their presentations. This webinar is being recorded. Members will be able to access it as well as the PDF versions of the slide decks probably sometime by the end of this week. And there will also be the recording as well. So both the PDFs and the recordings will be accessible. So our webinar today is going to be focused on how we are getting to net zero using modular. And we've got some really great presenters today. We're going to start with Marie Hanchet. She's the project manager here at CHBA in Net Zero Energy Housing. And she's going to give about 5 minutes on the project that CHBA is working on. And we're going to then pass it off to Alex Miller, the CEO of Big Block Construction. He's one of the builders in the project. And he's going to give you a little bit more information about his specific project, which is pretty exciting. And then we're going to move along. We've got 3 presenters from NRCan, as well as Corey Worms, Quality Control Manager from Grandeur Housing. And he's going to be chatting, he's going to be presenting along with Clarice, Jeremy, and Lucas that are part of the LEEP team over at NRCan. So they're each going to give their presentations, and then we'll get on to the Q&A. So without any further ado, Marie, feel free to take it away.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. So I am Marie Hanchet, the project manager with CHBA National, working with an amazing team, work on the specific NRCan funded project. So CHBA's Net Zero home labeling program has had over 400 homes labeled to date. That does include some multi-unit residential building stock and labels, but what we're doing right now is customizing that label for the MURB product type. So in September 2019, we kicked off this project in Calgary with a group of project consultants, builders, energy advisors, product solution providers, and funding partners to really dig into this problem of affordable, replicable, marketable, net zero energy MURBs. And we've been working together ever since. This is the high-level view of who's been involved to date, and some of these people have been in regular bi-weekly meetings since September of 2019. Officially, our project objective is to validate the use of panelized or modular construction and integrated mechanical systems with design practices on net zero or net zero ready multi-unit residential buildings, with the end objective being to optimize energy efficient performance, reduce costs, increase construction productivity, and reduce construction schedules. I summarize that all the time by saying that we're trying to have more prefabrication, including all the way to modular, higher levels of performance, so getting to net zero or net zero ready, and we're working on multi-unit residential buildings, which our program hadn't really been focused on before. All this while keeping homes beautiful, affordable, and our systems simple. So our group of 6 builders that we have engaged, each one of them has experience in one of those 3 areas or 2, but nobody has yet built modular net zero MURBs. So that's what we're all trying to work together on. But everyone has done either modular or net zero or multi-unit residential buildings. So we really are having this community of sharing the information and best practices and challenges. As a group in September 2019, we added on to our project objectives the idea of getting long-term data on occupant use instead of just building and occupant use together. So we're getting more granular information out of this project with load level consumption, very, very granular, and hoping to be able to get a deeper understanding of how people are using energy in their homes. So this project is across 4 provinces and 3 climate zones, and has both rental and ownership models. So we have condos and we have some purpose-built rentals, and rentals sometimes for outside organizations. There are about 100 units in total that are going to be getting energy monitoring out of this. both of the net zero MURB buildings as well as some of their sister buildings. So often we're seeing builders build two of almost the exact same products side by side. One would be net zero and one would not fall under the label. We're going to get monitoring information for both of those to be able to compare and have a really rich data set at the end. Also, we're seeing that these builders are crossed from urban to suburban and rural. So it's going to be a really valuable set of information and learnings at the end. This is a long-term project. We kicked off last year, so we're in year 2. Last year, we were focusing on planning, designing, and getting the approvals. And at this point, we've launched with some manufacturing and construction, so prefab manufacturing and construction on site. We're hoping to get our first units labeled later in this NRCan year, because this is an NRCan funded project. And I'm looking forward to doing that with Alex Miller from the Big Block Construction team. Beyond that, we're going to be looking back at our lessons learned that we're collecting through all of our templates and sharing on a regular basis, and then share that information more broadly through a series of presentations and reports. And we'll also have here at the end 5 years of post-project data collection on the energy performance of these units. So we've done our our designs for project builds. We've got a customized net zero MURB label that we're piloting with specific air tightness testing protocols that would recognize that attached units have different air leakage concerns from single family homes. We have our monitoring equipment and plans in place. We've been looking at net metering and sub-metering policies and cost analysis review. So that one being the idea that if you have a single PV array for a 10-unit MURB, that is less expensive than 10 individual arrays and 10 points of connection with the utility. So we're hoping to dig into this further with the 6 examples that we have, but have some regulatory policy challenges with this. We've also been working on how we're marketing net zero MURBs. Is it the same as marketing regular net zero housing? Not so much. One of the builders has found in their analysis that it's about $13 more a month for their net zero MURB than a code-built multi-unit building. We're looking at the cost and time benefits, including of PV installations. So how much can we save if we put in our mounting gear in a modular facility prior to site? And we've got most of our builders with designs and permits at this point, and one with tenants moving in just a month. And that would be Big Block coming up right now. This is where you can get more information. We have a public facing webpage from CHBA, and there's also quite a bit of information going out from CHBA National on social media and through the Net Zero News, or you're also welcome to contact me for information at any point.
Awesome. Thanks, Marie. Just a quick question. Is my screen up?
Not yet.
Huh.
I can see it. Yes, I can see it. It's good.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, thank you for that, Marie. And I know that we were told to kind of keep it in 25 minutes. So I will try to talk very quickly, I guess, to kind of move through it. Marie did a great job in kind of explaining the entire project. And this is a project that we were fortunate enough to be involved in, and just kind of start with, I'm actually going to start with a video. So if I can do that right now, it might take me a second here. Hopefully you guys, can you see this on your screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is something that we did here. This was our craning of our net zero building in 3rd week in August. So I'll just start with this, and then I'll kind of walk through it a bit more. Okay, and we should be back.
Yes, all good.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for that. So yeah, just a real quick background, I guess, in context. Founded Innovative Residential in 2006. One of the first biggest projects that we did was relocating a 50-year-old development. Well, like I said, I'm going to talk actually really quickly because we only have a few minutes and I'm going to jam pack a lot in. And I was told that we have a very technical audience, which means if I talk fast, then it should be good. I'm not maybe missing anything. So actually one of the first projects we did was a 50-year-old development where we actually we cut in half 10 sixplexes. We picked them up, moved them across town, put them back together on a new foundation. We actually won a national award over it. It was really kind of cool. And that actually started the mindset of, hey, can we do this but without 50-year-old buildings? Can we do this with new? So that kind of paved the way for what modular could be. We then started in modular in 2009. So now we've been doing it for just over 10 years. And we haven't looked back. We committed to it. Many gray hairs, and not just myself. I mean, all the other people that I've had to work with, business partners and staff. Ridiculous amounts of money spent, I think. However, there's many lessons learned, and I have shared that with other builders in the group and with a lot of other individuals. And if and when time comes, if anyone wants to learn more about that, I'm more than happy to share that. In 2018, we hived off big block construction, and really it was to help our customers, which is mostly the not-for-profits, be able to utilize the knowledge that we've built over the last 10 years on building faster and building better, and also with less risk. There's a consulting component to helping not-for-profits, but then there's also the construction piece, and I think we're all here focused on the construction piece. But what I find is if you really can't help educate the customers up front on how to methodically, efficiently, and effectively move through the consulting portion, it's really actually hard to get a construction project that's efficient, like I just showed you there, off the ground. To date, we've done over 1,500 multifamily homes in and around Saskatoon. We have done affordable rental sale townhouse, a stacked townhouse, which I'm going to talk to in a little bit, as well as low rise, so 3-story on top of underground parkade, and Energy Star. So kind of exactly like Marie was talking about, we have a few of these past examples in our tool belt, but not all of them. So I love the name of this: affordable, replicable, marketable, net zero ready MURBs. You know, this is a bit of a poke at all the engineers and at NRCan. I'm allowed to, I hope I'm allowed to, because I'm an engineer as well. But man, you couldn't get a more descriptive title than that. Like, what exactly are we trying to accomplish? So we've done a lot of affordable. Actually, that's all we've focused on. Replicable, meaning, you know, panelized or modular. We've been doing that, like I said, for 10 years. MURBs, we've done for over 10 years. We've done Energy Star, but never net zero. And I've never then truly understood the marketability piece of it, which I think is critical, because, you know, if you throw enough money at it, or, you know, if people believe in, you know, accomplishing this, you can do that. But if you actually really want to get something on a large scale, I mean, the early adopters are always going to do it just because they believe in it. But if you're ever going to actually advance the industry, I think you truly have to understand what that end customer experience is. And how that all ties in to the entire piece. So that's actually really where I'm excited as we move through this project, and how I can learn and how we can keep pushing the industry where it needs to go. So just quickly walking through the project up here in Saskatoon, 12 buildings. One of the buildings we decided to do net zero ready. We have designed it to be net zero ready. We are, you can see the screen. Yeah, you can see my mouse. Okay. And what we're doing is actually we have an opportunity here where we have another building that's identical in size and shape and layout and orientation. We're actually also going to be putting monitoring equipment into here to be able to kind of help understand the base case of what we're currently building to, in addition to what this net zero ready building will do. And in a perfect world, what I'm seeing happen is this entire building is right now built to net zero ready, what you saw is crane, but I'm really hoping over the next year that these 6 units, I can't really see it because it's a stacked townhouse, will actually be net zero. So we're gonna have 6 units of net zero, 6 units of net zero ready, 12 units of a base case of what we're currently building. So really, as an engineer, I really love this thought process of being able to analyze multiple things with less variables changing. So real quick background on the layout of this: we have a 3-bedroom, a 2-story on top of a 2-bedroom single-story. So in a short of time, I won't kind of walk through it, but this blue line here is kind of grade, so you have a little bit of walk up on the front and a little 2-story kind of walk out at the back. Okay, so phase one, there was a ton of stuff that went through this, but in the sake of time, the design charades that we went through shreds, the building project analysis had us a lot of thinking. The routine builder meetings, I can't thank enough, and if now I'm committing to saying names, I'm going to forget someone, but Sam, Chris, Haitao, Sean, Greg, Doug, I couldn't ask for a better group of people like the builders to work with. I mean, being as open and honest and transparent and working towards our common challenges to get to this. I mean, a huge thank you to CHBA for creating the environment in which we can all actually help each other. So super excited for that. And it's been a privilege. This to me, when I got this Bitmoji, to me, I was thinking of you, Marie, because the amount of stuff you've asked for throughout this project is insane. I always wonder, how much did NRCan ask you to do, and how much are you just wanting to know? But anyways, you got it, boss. I'm here to help you. Anyway, so we went through a ton of different design requirements, product comparisons, selections. COVID happened, threw a little bit of a wrench, but not a big wrench actually, because, and then again, I could talk for an hour on why COVID actually didn't really throw a wrench into with respect to the modular component. And that's a big kudos to Grandeur and any modular builders for that case on the controlled facility aspect and how it relates to COVID. The one unfortunate part is because of COVID, we didn't get that pre-construction meeting like we wanted to on site or in the factory. We still did pre-construction meetings, and I think it went really well considering. But yeah, so I'm excited for us to be able to come back to that. So just where we are, we turned dirt on May 4th, and actually the first building people moved in October 1st. One of the fastest ones that we've ever done. But very comparable to previous projects. So a little bit of site construction. I mean, you guys have all seen the drill before. We got the pipes in the ground, did our excavations, did our ICF crawl spaces. And if you remember from that video, I think it was in that video where there was like kind of 3 stacked boxes. The way our particular design works is we have them on top of a 2-foot crawl space. A couple more site construction pictures here if they show up. I think they've shown up now. Sorry, these are high-res photos, and now I've lost my mouse. Here we go. Finishing those crawl spaces a little bit more ready for craning. We did, like I talked about, we have a little bit of the building the grade up on the front of those units, as well as getting all of our utilities installed, SaskPower, Sask Energy, and any sort of hard landscaping that we could do prior to craning. We did that. And then of course, I'm really not going to do justice here for how awesome the modular component worked. Again, we've got tons of videos, and so does Grandeur and other companies on what it actually is, but I think you're all kind of familiar with what modular can be. And so what we particularly did on this project, we actually did a 2x10 wall with a 2x6 exterior, 2x4 interior plates. And that really worked well to get us the energy efficiency that we needed. Also from an on-site perspective, being able to finish it. We've done full wrap EFIS systems before, but in this particular project, given the design and the nature of it, this is what we chose to go with. We've never done a double wall before, so that was new to us. The windows were Burdick manufactured. They're a triple pane, double OE, argon. Standard. That was our base. Actually, we didn't have to change anything on that. Really good windows. Something that was new to us, though, was this is a dual furnace, natural gas furnace, but it's a Chinook brand, but it's a dual furnace where it has an air source heat pump. And so that was new to us, you know, going through all the design and understanding how it actually works. Fascinating technology. Of course, you have your typical HRVs, ERVs. Another thing that was new to us that we've never done was the air source heat pump domestic hot water with backup electric heat. Obviously from a, and this was one thing that was really fascinating for me as we were going through this design, is understanding its place. Where does electricity have its place? Because, you know, from an outside looking in our particular case, we don't have a lot of hydro in Saskatoon. In fact, I think we have 0. And so our costs are 5 to 1, not including maybe the carbon pricing over the years that have maybe come into effect. And so I'm really trying to understand the balance of where all these things fit. Plus, all of our electricity actually comes from burning natural gas at our local QE power plant. So to think that gas doesn't have a home, I think is a little bit short-sighted. But it's just, but anyway, so we did end up going with, there was no gas on this water heater. It was an air source heat pump. So anyways, that was new to us, and kind of going through, it was really interesting. As well as the, as you can see, the drain water heat recovery, which again, I can say we've never done. A couple finished pictures of what some of these, the homes look like. Again, they're a rental base, so these were the specs. I think you guys are all familiar with what modular can look like. And then of course, some more pictures of us here on site on putting it all together. Quality assurance program. So I can spend a real quick minute talking about this. So this is really neat, actually. The Saskatchewan New Home Warranty program came out with this new value offering this year. It's a quality assurance program, and basically in Saskatchewan, you know, from a high ratio leverage point of view, you have to have insurance. You have to have a new home warranty for the banks. But what's unfortunate is through the entire building process, there is no exterior inspection requirement, and that could be because of our, you know, our location in Canada and the amount of rainfall and what our climate is. However, that's one thing that I think is really, really important. It's the first line of defense, obviously, for these buildings as a whole, and it really, really aligns itself with the net zero being as airtight as possible. You do the airtightness, obviously, from an energy perspective, and you also like to do it from a quality perspective. So we were super happy to join John. He's the CEO of the Saskatchewan New Home Warranty with Keith Hansen, Sunridge, group of builders. The relationship, the knowledge that these guys have, and as well as Keith is our Keith and Dave and Darcy, the entire team at Sunridge who are doing the energy analysis on our building, have been just fantastic to work with, and really, really cool opportunity. So we kind of had to wait till site for this, but what we did is we actually rewrapped our entire net zero building in a more of a superior product. So Tyvek came to the table, really helped us with this, gave us all the different specs on what we wanted to accomplish. You know, I'm glancing over the fact that there was a ton of work that we did with Corey and the team at Grandeur on taking their existing best practices and trying to turn them up a little bit more of a notch. Don't really know if it was needed, because our base case, we've had fantastic air changes. You know, one even sub one in cases, but we kind of did a double line of defense here on this one. We not only did the factory stuff, but we're also doing on site this extra wrap. In a perfect world, I would have loved to have done this in the factory and in the factory instead of on site. It only took a couple days, but that COVID kind of threw a bit of a wrench into it. Anyway, super excited to work with the team on going through this, and it aligns with our net zero goals. So key lessons learned. This is again where you can add more dollars and more gray hairs. If I were to summarize, I'd say really, really, really invest in great partners. You gotta have a good support team. Trust is everything. The project owners, I mean, Tyler, Stacy, the NHC Innovative, if it wasn't for their trust and belief in what we've done, we wouldn't be a part of this project. So I'm really, really thankful for the ownership group to allow us the opportunity to do this and to, you know, better advance our buildings, but also society at large. Our national partners, I mean, Andy, Will, Derek, Building Knowledge, Blue Water, S2E, Marie, Sonia, Brett, NRCan. I mean, you guys have been fantastic from the integrated design perspective and bringing us all together. In the builder group, I already talked about the guys all involved in that and the ladies involved. You just really can't thank you enough. And then, of course, our local partners. I mean, I am all about partnerships. I am all about creating that environment conducive for success and engagement. And Grandeur, I mean, we've worked with them for over 10 years. Anytime you do that, there's always going to be little hiccups and blips, but that also then attests how good a relationship can be when you go through some of that. Sask Energy, you know, big partner in this. Saskatchewan Region Home Builders, Chris Garrett, as well as, you know, John and Keith, like I talked about. CMHC is a partner on this, and there's so many more. So in the interest of time, invest in great partners, have that trust, be open and willing to learn from each other. So the integrated design piece, that wasn't new to me. However, the whole net zero piece was new to me. like anything, there's so much information and very, very iterative. Our base design was pretty good on those 12 units, was 460 gigajoules. We did end up getting it down by 150, which is what, about a third, to 305 gigajoules. And I believe, I asked the number this morning, I can't remember, I think it was 166 is the occupant, which is I think 50%, 55% is the occupant load. So now we've got it to a point where these buildings are pretty tight and pretty on the money. Now it'll be interesting when it all gets done here in commission to see how close it is. But that occupant load now is really, really a big piece. And that's so important that that NRCan saw that and invested in understanding how that occupant load kind of fits into this so that we're designing for the future with the balance of everything. Those are all the things I already talked about that we selected. And from a cost perspective, so the early numbers are in with where we're at. Our cost from our base design, which is a little bit irrelevant if you're not kind of asking what our base is to someone else's base, but we've always been above code ever since we started. So at the end of the day, it's about $60,000 for those 12 units, half of them being 2 bedrooms, half of them being 3 bedrooms. Again, really appreciate the ownership group for coming together and just investing in that and committing, because that easily could have been, well, no, what's the benefit here? But they believe in me and they believe in the team of us trying to add that value. It's roughly a 3% increase. So about on the $150 a square foot rough for our particular layout and everything, our build cost, it's roughly about a 3% increase. And so that extra 5,000 a unit was to get it to net zero ready. And so that's where we kind of stand right now. Over the next 12 months, we're wrapping up our phase 2 with some project commissioning. Lots of work going on. That ask me in a year from now the lessons learned. There's a lot here on that I don't quite know yet. The possessions and then the net zero labeling. So that's all happening here in the next couple months. And then what I'm really, really hoping to do here, and if I can get enough partners and twist enough arms and do a proper job on working through this business case and that marketability, then I can transition to, well, we will be transitioning, sorry, to phase 3, which is we'll be collecting all the information. But I want to take it one step further. I really want to understand this business case, and then I want to build the solar panels. I want to install them, I mean, and help and properly be able to answer the project goal of the logical point down here below, because I want to find a balance between all of these things. So that's as simple as it is. If you'd like to connect, here's my cell number, email. More than happy to talk more about this, obviously at the end and later. Plus, if you want to subscribe to some of our the news that comes out on this project, we've already sent out about 15 different. Every month or 3 weeks or so, we kind of send out where we're at in the project and a new piece that we've learned. Feel free to sign up. There's probably another 15 more as per all those steps that I talked about. So that's the presentation in a nutshell. 18 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was fantastic. And we do have some questions already coming in, but we will leave that to the end. I've now just passed over control to Clarice. So Clarice should be able to bring up her screen momentarily here. And then we'll also see the webcams coming up of the 3 folks from NRCan LEEP, as well as Corey from Grandeur. And so ideally, yeah, there we go. Perfect. So Clarice, feel free to click on, presentation mode, and then turn on your webcam. And I think we've got everything rocking and rolling for you guys.
Can you see my screen? Am I good to go?
Yeah, everything's great to go.
All right. Thank you so much, Sonia, and hello, everyone. I really enjoyed that MURB presentation. Thank you, Alex and Marie. And we've got another exciting project to show you, also about net zero and modular, but this time the focus is on single family homes. So I'm going to give a quick recap of a project that we've been working on at NRCan over the last year. It's called the Net Zero Modular Case Study Project, and that provides the backstory to Corey Worms, who is going to lead us through a construction tour of a net zero home that's currently under construction and nearly complete. Following Corey's tour, I'm going to ask 2 of my colleagues from NRCan to just say a few words to show some examples of how this home, which we call case study number 3, is connected to other interesting and important work happening at NRCan. The Net Zero Modular Case Study Project was launched last year at the 2019 CHBA fall meetings, and it's a collaboration between the Modular Construction Council and the NRCan LEEP team. 4 modular builders from 4 regions across Canada volunteered to participate: West Coast, Prairies, Eastern, and Maritimes. 10 case studies were defined. Each of them was a single-family modular home. The project included every Canadian climate zone from zone 4 all the way up to zone 8. And we analyzed the energy performance of a currently available model home provided by the 4 participating builders. And we identified any shortfalls and the best options in order to bring the home into net zero compliance. This shows the regional location of the 4 participating builders. We have M on the West Coast, Grandeur Homes in the Prairies, Guildcrest Homes in Eastern Canada, and Supreme Homes out east. And I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to each of those builders. It was a pleasure meeting you and a privilege to work with you. Thank you so much. You also see on this map, each of the red numbers indicates one of the locations of the case study homes. Here we have the same numbered case study locations superimposed on a climate map of Canada, and we included every climate zone, and I manipulated things a little so that we incorporated everything from zone 4 all the way up to zone 8 in our case study project. This slide shows a rendered image of our 10 case study homes, and each of them was a modular home. They ranged in size from 1085, which was the smallest, to 1693, which was the largest, and they varied a little bit. Some had attached garages, some didn't. Some had a full insulated basement, others were an insulated floor plate above grade, and some were 1, 2, and 3 part construction. So the focus story today is case study number 3. The builder is Grandeur Homes. Winkler, Manitoba was the location. That's in climate zone 7A. It was a 2-bed, 2-bath, 1475 square foot bungalow. It was a 1-piece modular construction with a site-built porch and attached double garage, and it had a full insulated 8-foot basement, or rather it has a full insulated 8-foot basement. This just shows a summary, a very quick summary of the energy performance analysis. We began by looking at the plans for the modular home that were provided by the builders, and then we analyzed them and identified any shortfalls and any options or the best options to reach net zero performance. And in the case of this particular home, we had to look at the air tightness, we had to add under slab insulation, and we looked very closely at the mechanicals for opportunities for upgrade. We also provided a solar PV assessment for each of the 10 case studies, and you'll see on the upper left-hand corner is a little floor plan. It's the roof plan, and the shaded blue area shows the solar that's required for this home in Winkler, Manitoba to make it to net zero. So a summary of the study results for case study number 3. The envelope energy performance was excellent. There really was no change needed in terms of R value, but we did discuss air vapor barriers and insulation strategies, and we shared the LEEP wall system packages, which are available to all of you who are interested. We looked at the mechanicals, and a typical furnace would have been 80 BTU, which was oversized. We looked at the appliances and suggested switching to Energy Star appliances to reduce the loads for electrical and hot water. And of course, solar PV was available, and we only needed half of the roof area to meet the load requirements. And we discussed the possibility of PV integration in the factory construction process. One more quick comment. Grandeur chose to participate in the Net Zero Home Labeling Program that's currently ongoing with the CHBA Net Zero Council, and this home will be labeled. Now, without further ado, I am going to hand it off to Corey Worms from Grandeur Homes, and he is going to take you through a construction tour. Corey?
Thank you, Clarice. Good afternoon to all of you as well. Yeah, so here's a quick walkthrough of what we do here at Grandeur Housing, and some small details of what we had to do to reach the net zero. Next slide, please. Okay, so our typical building is done with our in-house built engineered open wood web joists. So starting off just as a typical home wood here. Next slide, please. We get into more of the mechanicals once the floor is laid out. We spent a lot of time in the ductwork area on this home. We had the ductwork design done by Dara Bowser of Bowser Technical, and used instead of a main trunk system, individual 8-inch round ducts that fed off to or down to 4-inch ducts as required throughout the floor. Next slide, please. And then with our building technique, we complete the floor 100%, including the final finished floor, and then cover it with plastic. The middle picture you can see there, part of the wall construction. Our typical is to have OSB on the inside of the inside face of the wall, exterior wall. We removed that for this house using nylon strapping to give the wall some structure, so we could crane it and the wall would stay square and straight with the drywall already attached. Next slide, please. And here you can see some of the wall constructions. The first one on the left is interior walls. And then, of course, the exterior walls that you can see from the outside of the building. We incorporated a wall type #1 from the LEEP wall packages, which is a 2x8 wall, 2 foot on center, using advanced framing techniques of single top plate. And then filled it with R28 batt, and then using 2-inch EPS rigid on the exterior of that after the sheathing. Next slide, please. Here we've got the roof assembly on our mezzanine floor, where we construct all of our roofs. We lay them out down at floor level. Once the trusses are assembled, it gets lifted up, put on stands, and then we install the vapor barrier and the drywall as it's on the stand, and then finish it as well, complete to texture, and then have it ready to move down onto the home on the main floor. Next slide, please. Here you can see the roof coming down using our crane system. So all walls are already in place, including interior walls. And then the roof is dropped down from the mezzanine floor down onto the walls and fastened. At that point, we're also making sure that all our vapor barrier seals are in place and ensuring that we're good to go for air leakage. Next slide, please. Wiring and vapor barrier, we do that from the outside of the building, seeing as how there's no exterior sheathing on at this point. So we can ensure that all vapor barrier hats and backing is sealed up properly prior to sheathing. As you can see on the slide on the right, backing was installed, and then any penetration through the vapor barrier was 100% sealed with acoustical sealant. Next slide, please. The insulation, here you can see being installed, R28 bat, as I had mentioned earlier. And knowing ahead of time that we were going to go full net zero on this house, we kind of planned ahead knowing that we needed to run a wire from the solar array down to the panel. So we installed a junction box and the wire required for the array so that it's a quick hookup on site. Next slide, please. Window ratings, again, we're using Burdick windows, and we did do a slight upgrade on the Energy Star rating on these windows, and also using a very good low expansion foam, closed cell foam for sealing them up. Next slide, please. This is another spot where we spent a lot of time just ensuring the seals are on the windows and doors. Used the flashing tape that sealed from the house wrap to the vapor barrier on the interior side of the wall, and then also flashed from the outside of the EPS, tying into the flex wrap that was installed initially from the house wrap going in. We also spent a lot of time making sure that we were sealed all the way back to the sheathing on the exterior of the home, which meant that we needed to make small, well, same size as the window width, sloped EPS pieces that you can see in the middle picture there, that tied right back behind the house wrap, so we had positive flashing all the way through. Next slide, please. So here you can see the next step in flashing the window. Once the window was installed, the next layer of flashing tape was installed. The end, or the drip caps with end dams also all tying back into the behind the house wrap. Next slide, please. All right, then it was ready to come out of the factory. It looks a little unfinished because of all the additional work that was being done on site. So you can see where the garage is going to be attached, and then also the area in the front where the deck is going to be attached. Next slide, please. Site work was typical. Dug the basement, had the footing installed, and used the ICF forms, and everything went extremely well there. Next slide, please. And moving day. We got to move the house onto the foundation. Everything went smooth there as well. And as you can see in the picture on the right, the boss and I are very happy. Next slide, please. And front deck work. The site work started almost immediately, and we got the deck on right away. Next slide, please. And basement windows, the same attention to detail was done on the basement windows as what was done on the main floor windows, just making sure that our flashing was positive and sealed up 100%. Next slide, please. Garage foundation, once the house was moved on, we could start with our garage foundation. We needed to wait with that because that's exactly where the moving truck was going to be coming in. Otherwise, we could have worked ahead a little bit on that one and had the garage already there, but once it was there, we got going on it, and it worked well as well. Next slide, please. There we go. Garage trusses in place, just everything moving right along. Next slide, please. Okay, mechanicals and solar to PV. Mechanicals here, the house is being heated and cooled with a heat pump system, air-to-air heat pump, and the hot water is also an air-to-air heat pump as well, similar, well, exactly what Alex is using in his MURB project as well. We're also using the drain water heat recovery system, and a high efficiency HRV for ventilation. The solar panels is a 26 panel array that's on the southeast side of the roof, and will be producing 12 kilowatt hours of power. Next slide, please. Interior finishes are Grandeur's typical offerings. Very, very beautiful looking house. And that's the end of my walkthrough. Jeremy, are you up next?
Yes, I'm up next. So can you go to the next slide, please? There you go. So for the mechanical system, one of the first things that we wanted to do is include a mechanical designer on the team so that we can consider the different aspects of the mechanical design. So the first thing the mechanical designer did is take with the plans, he was able to do an F28012 calculation. So knowing what the heat loss and heat gain on the home was. In this particular case, we're looking at just under 24,000 BTU per hour. As Clarice was mentioning, your regular contractor would have came in and said, you need an 80,000 BTU furnace in here. So it's pretty critical to get that mechanical design done for the home. Second thing we were looking at is, what kind of equipment we were going to be installing. So in this case, a heat pump was being selected. It's a 3-stage heat pump that got selected with electric backup heat. And the duct design was particular in the sense that the basement and main floor are separated. So it's a zone ready system. So that'll allow for later adjustments to get better comfort for winter and summer conditions. Next slide. In terms of next step for this one, we'll be testing and monitoring the system. So we'll be looking at airflow measurements for the zone ductwork that was done. So we'll do a room by room flow measurement to confirm design airflows. We'll also be looking at monitoring the heat pump. So we'll be looking at over at least one winter season to see how the heat pump is performing. And that'll be used for some standard developments. So with that said, I'll pass it over to Lucas.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'll keep this really quick, just in the interest of time. So we have a chance to ask these super interesting presenters a little bit more about their project. But some of you may have remembered a presentation that was given last year at the Modular Council about a tool that NRCan is developing called CBAT. CBAT is a cost-benefit analysis tool that allows builders, energy advisors, and everyone in the home building industry to better assess the cost of building to certain levels of energy performance. Chris, do you mind changing the slide, please? So CBAT is designed to answer multiple questions that I think many of us have as we're moving from code to something slightly more progressive. Various questions like what technologies are available to get to energy efficient designs. Equally as important is how much does that energy efficiency design cost me, and how much does it cost me using my prices. So CBAT allows you to go into the tool, customize costs, as well as view different types of optimization criteria to help you better understand what decision is going to be the most impactful and beneficial for your business, as well as the homeowners after your project is completed. Next slide, please. And so we were lucky enough with this specific project in Grandeur Homes to use one of their, specifically this case study 3 archetype as one to be incorporated into CBAT. So now for users who pick up the program, you'll notice that there is the Grandeur modular archetype in there, and that's been run across 10 cities and all climate zones for the country. What we've done is taken 90,000 Hot 2000 runs, run that for all the cities and covered all the climate zones, so that way you can now have better access to understanding how to move a home similar to the one, or that specific Grandeur home, or if you're doing one similar to it, to various levels of energy performance. You can also access the preloaded costing database that is within the tool and gain insights to different analysis like construction costs, net present value, cost of ownership, as well as lowest annual energy consumption. And so if you have any questions regarding the tool or its upcoming release, feel free to direct them to Clarice after this presentation. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you everyone. That was a fantastic presentation. And now I'm going to invite Alex and Marie back online as well. I don't have an opportunity to actually shut off the slideshow for some reason, but now we've got all our presenters up online, and I do have a few questions that have come in. And back to the audience again. Oh, thank you, that must have been Natasha. If you have any more questions, please feel free to type your questions in the question pane. So I'll start with Alex. The first question for you is, for the big block construction project, where they intend on comparing the net zero ready building with the adjacent similar building, is there any concern that one building will receive shading from its neighbor that its neighbor won't experience as well, so which will affect the solar gains?
I think it would be very negligible based on the layout on that site, but obviously it's something that we'll look at and we can take into consideration. But like I said, I'm pretty sure it's going to be negligible.
Yeah, I think that probably when Will did the assessment, he would have indicated if there were any shading concerns, right?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, there is, I doubt there's ever a perfect comparison, but this is pretty close to as almost perfect as you might get. But yeah, we'll definitely take it into consideration for sure.
Great, thanks, Alex. Another question.
Can I ask if the question was supposed to be on the PV generation or if it was solar gain, like a heat gains on the windows? Was it clearer?
It did not say, it just said receiving shading. So Nick, I don't know if you want to pop back into the question pane and elaborate a little bit more if you were thinking about the solar gains through the windows or the shading on, well, shading on windows or on the rooftop for the PV. So if you want to elaborate on that. And then I
guess I could just say one quick thing. The way the rooftops are, there'd be no shading difference between the two. And the way our windows actually work is like, I think 98% of them are on the south facing, which wouldn't affect it. There's only a couple tiny ones actually on the end where potentially there'd be a shading effect. That's why I say I really don't think there'd be much impact.
Got it. Great. Okay. Very good to know. Thank you so much for the clarification, Alex. And sorry, he did, Nick said, good point, Marie, and he meant solar gains through the windows. And he just wanted to know if there were any windows on the end, so you answered it. Thanks so much. The next question also for Alex is, what was a typical size of the modules and the weight, and how did you ensure the various connections to the joints? And they're saying this is an excellent approach. Thank you so much for sharing your project.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd be happy to share more because it's kind of hard to do it in a short time like this. Like I said, those gray hairs that probably Corey and myself both have, and the lessons learned would we have lots of knowledge on how to maybe do that, but so 40 pounds a square foot is a really good estimate given what we've done. So 1,000 square foot would be about 40,000 pounds. So kind of use that as a good starting point. It usually kind of includes the rigging. So on the bottom, I think they're 20 by 40, 800 square feet, 32,000 pounds includes the rigging, which is usually 3,000–4,000 pounds. The upper units are a little bit smaller. They're 20 by 30, 600 square feet times 40, 24,000 plus a little bit more. So maybe, yeah, 24,000 including rigging. And then, but we have the ability, or at least we've done as big as 22 by 70. So what's that, 1,500 square feet at 40. I mean, we've been upwards of 70,000 pounds before. And I can't remember the second question.
The second one was, how do you ensure the various connections to the joints?
So I don't entirely know what they're referring to. I know from a structural perspective, we design it in a way where we have, like Corey showed, kind of top chord trusses, open web wood trusses with all the weights on the perimeter. And so we take that into account with our design. If there's any overhangs, you just have to properly cantilever and transfer the loads down, both in your point loads. From the mechanical connections and electrical, that's something that over the years we really refined to make it as simple as humanly possible. I've toured over 60 facilities. I've seen a lot of projects, and when I see module, I'm like, okay, cool. And then I go and take a look at it, and I'm like, guys, you got to spend a bit more time like figuring this out. Like, why would you not finish it completely? You know, it's like, oh, we'll let them finish that. I'm like, no, you got to learn from that. So I mean, it's almost as simple as plug and play with the electrical is what we've got it to. The mechanical, almost the same thing. I guess one of the biggest lessons learned I've mechanical is don't ever assume anything is going to line up perfect. Everything is so close, but there's always tolerances. So what I've learned is don't ever expect it to be perfect, because sometimes with plumbing and stuff, if you're off by less than 4 inches, it's impossible to connect it. So always design it so you're at least a foot off or something like that, and then that way connections are actually quite easy.
Fantastic. That's great detail. Thanks so much, Alex. And this one here was, the next question is from Jason. Was the hot water heat pump ducted to the outside? If not, was it factored into Hot 2000 modeling?
I'm assuming that was for myself.
I'm assuming either you or for Corey.
Well, I can, and maybe Corey, you can answer this too. On our particular one, that's what blew my mind. When I saw this air source heat pump, and you go, okay, where's this big ducting right into the open room? And you're like, okay, what is happening here? Like, how does this make sense? But it's fascinating that, you know, you take the temperature difference, your delta with the room temperature versus the hot, and that's how you can exchange it between. So yeah, it does not go outside to any different type of condenser. The condenser is on top of the hot water heater itself, and the venting goes straight into the room, which is just fascinating.
Okay, and he actually clarified, he wanted to know, was the cooling impact from the heat pump modeled?
Yes, that was factored in, and that is something that's really unique and hard to get your head wrapped around. So brilliant question, and I've asked a lot of people on this, and it's really difficult to actually get your head wrapped around that concept of it provides free cooling in the summer. And then in the winter, you do have to make up for that cooling, but we chose to heat that space with natural gas. So you always have that efficiency of 3 or 350%, because we're always at a 20-degree temperature that we're now converting using that temperature difference to get our air source heat pump up to its required hot water. So you're always at that temperature, so you're getting free cooling in the summer. And then when you do have to heat up that, you're actually using natural gas in our particular case, which was really economical, which is important when trying to balance that consumer and the rental perspective in our case.
Absolutely. Great. Corey, did you have anything you wanted to add to that in terms of your usage of the heat pumps?
Ours is ducted directly into the building itself too, not outside at all. Jeremy can maybe say a little bit more to that as far as what was modeled, but that's what we've chosen to do.
Yeah, it's a similar to Alex's situation. So ducted to the room, it'll provide cooling in the summer, and you'll have to compensate for it in the winter. In Corey's case, he has a heat pump, so you're still over what your typical hot water heater with just electric resistance would be, because both have a COP of more than 1.
Great, thank you. We have a couple more questions here. One is for Clarice. I should probably have this answer as well, but they're wondering how they can access those LEEP wall assemblies that were referred to.
The official publication of the wall assemblies is forthcoming, but we have, with some assurances, shared draft copies. But I hope that very soon the final publications will be available on our website, and you can contact me by email to arrange access to the draft copies.
Fantastic. Yeah. So that was Paul. Paul, if you want to send me an email, and then I can put you in touch with Clarice if you didn't catch your email address previously. Fantastic. And we've got 1 minute left. I've got 2 quick questions here. Are there any modular builders in the Calgary area that are set up to do customizable single or semi-detached high-performance homes? I don't know if anyone has any answers to that. I don't think we have our modular group here. What we could probably do, Steve, is if you want to get in touch with me later, I know that we do have a list of our modular builders on our website. So feel free to send me an email, and then I can point you to the right direction on our website where we can give you a list of those modular builders. Great, thanks, Steve. Last question, do you envision one-off high-end custom homes being built in facilities as shown, or is this more for spec builds? A very great question. That was actually a question we had presented at our Net Zero Leadership Summit in February. We were talking to builders who had previously only done site builds and have now moved over to modular. And the question was exactly that. Can they be for custom homes or production? And it's definitely for both. I don't know if Corey and Alex want to speak a little bit more to that.
Corey, you go first.
Okay. Grandeur is able to build a net zero house for either market. Like it's quite open for us. This particular home was a spec home, which I am buying. I will be living in this house, and we'll be supplying information to Grandeur and also to NRCan with how the house is going to perform. So yeah, we're expecting to be able to build these for any customer.
Thanks, Corey. Alex?
Yeah, I would just add on to a little bit. See, that's why I had you to go first, because as a modular builder, you guys can do anything, right? So I didn't want to say you can or cannot. My particular, I guess, experience, I would say, is from everything I've seen modular companies do, Grandeur included, they absolutely can do it, and they do a phenomenal job. And I think for lots of reasons, it's something that you definitely should pursue. I think the very nature of what our project in particular, this affordable, replicable, marketable, net zero MURB, I think the factory built procedures is just conducive to the economies of scale of building a repeat piece, because then I think you can get those economies of scale in which you can actually keep our costs in line. And so I'm under the mindset of providing a lot of affordable and energy efficient homes across Canada. So that's where I fit into this. So, you know, I wouldn't look at a custom home as, yep, let's go modular. Totally can be done. And I think for people who want to do it, they should. I'm looking at it the lens of how do we repeat this and actually supply the benefits across the entire industry.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, that's a great answer. And I know that the work that we're doing through this MURB project, that's absolutely one of the goals. And one of the things we did realize in the presentation that happened in BC for the Leadership Summit was that there are also further opportunities, not necessarily going all the way up to modular, but using panelization for custom homes as well. So there's that option too that would perhaps see some additional gains for the custom builds too. So that wraps it up for our questions. I wanted to say one last thank you so very much to all of our presenters. I think you all provided some fantastic content. And again, for everybody who participated as attendees today, the slide decks and the video recording of this webinar will be available on our website. We will be able to, if you have any questions about where that's located, because I'm not exactly sure where we're going to be posting it, there's, I think, a couple places where we can be putting it, but please feel free to let me know if you do want copies, and then I will again point you to the right direction on our webpage to find that. So thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.